In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to live slowly this fall. Let's get right into it. Okay friends, you all know I'm very excited for this video. I cannot be happier that fall has finally arrived. You all know fall is my favorite season, so I'm just very, very excited, very inspired. I am in my zone, and I know a lot of you are as well. So if you are a fellow fall lover, welcome to the best time of the year. And if you are not a fall lover, if you're kind of struggling with the fact that summer is over and we're heading into the cooler seasons, this video is going to be really great for you, because learning to live slowly in fall is learning to romanticize fall and learning to fall in love with fall if you aren't in love with fall already. Of course, if you are a fall lover, this is going to help you embrace every single day and romanticize every single day of the season for what it is. But if you're not, if you're on the other side, this is going to help you get there. So a couple of reminders, or 3 reminders to be exact, before we get into the tips and ideas that I have in this video. The first reminder is that I have a seasonal slow living blog post on slowmorningdiaries.com. This is pretty much a seasonal slow living 101. So if you have no idea what seasonal slow living is, that blog post is going to have everything that you need. And I think it's a really good resource to have, because I do talk about seasonal slow living all the time. And I really stand by it. I think it's a simple, accessible way for people to get into slow living. So that's the first reminder. The second reminder is that last year I created an ebook. It's sort of an ebook, but I created it last year, and it's all about slow living in fall. So it's kind of like an enhanced, a tripled version of this video, and I really poured my heart and soul into it last year. I remember when I sat down to write it, I was feeling really lost and I was in a rut, and then suddenly I sat down and I felt super inspired, and pretty much my whole heart and soul and love for fall poured into this ebook. I'm calling it ebook because ebook kind of gives it less of a romanticized feeling, but in reality, it's very prosy. It has a lot of high quality photos that I've taken over the years during the fall season, and I put a lot of love into it. So it is an ebook and it is a guide for living slowly in the fall, but it is also very prosy and just a love letter to fall, if that makes sense. Okay, and then the third reminder is that when you are listening to me or watching me go through these tips and ideas, I want you to think about this one prompt in your head. And I hope you use this prompt for pretty much all of my videos, but just remember to think about what excites you, what is potentially going to excite you, and what actually interests you when it comes to the fall season. And emphasis on what potentially excites you, because you might be thinking about some things that you're unsure of, but you are willing to give a try when it comes to the fall season and seasonal activities during the fall. So just keep an open mind and keep this prompt in the back of your head as I go through these tips and ideas, because I will be using examples that I personally find to be positive and joyful, and it may not 100% align with you, but we can get there once you put your mindset in that place of what would work for me in this instance, if that makes sense. Okay, that was enough blabber. Let's get into the tips. The first tip is a tip that I start every one of these videos with, but please don't ignore it, because I think it is one of the most important things. It is to create a seasonal bucket list. Now, this is tried and true for me. I've been doing seasonal bucket lists since I was like 12 years old, and it can be just as simple as what I did when I was 12 years old. I used to get a poster board and sticky notes, and I used to plaster on a bunch of different seasonal activities per seasonal bucket list. So I'm gonna go through some examples, but you don't have to do a poster board. You can use a literal list in your journal or whatever it may be. But what's so important about a seasonal bucket list is that it will be full of season-specific type of activities, and those activities are gonna help you enjoy the season for what it is. That's gonna help you enjoy certain activities that are very festive and pretty much a celebration of the season. And that's really important if we're trying to live slowly, romanticize, and embrace the season. That's the whole video, right? If you need help, if you need some tips, if you need a starting point and you have no idea where to begin when it comes to creating a seasonal bucket list, I have created one for you. It's a Notion template, it's completely free. I will link that as well as all of the other things that I talked about in the intro in my description box. And like I said, it's a Notion template. You click on it, it will prompt you to duplicate it into your Notion account. You can create a Notion account from there if you don't have a Notion account. and it is full of ideas already in there. And I've even left comments, I've left ideas, all sorts of things. You can customize it, you can edit, you can remove, you can add, do whatever it is that you want to do because it's in your Notion account once you duplicate it. You're pretty much started when it comes to creating a seasonal bucket list. You can cross that off of this list that I'm going through, and you're already off to a great start. Okay, the next tip goes hand in hand with the first one. It is to participate in seasonal activities, and I wrote that you can actually add these to your bucket list. So again, we're setting up your bucket list really, really well here, and the examples that I have are very fall focused. So I have pumpkin or apple picking. Sometimes pumpkin picking can be associated with spooky season, and if you're not into that, you can do apple picking, and there's so much fun associated with apple picking. You can make a whole day event out of it. The next thing that I have is bonfires and s'mores. I feel like this is the perfect time to sit by a bonfire and make s'mores. I only really eat s'mores during the fall season. It's just the perfect time to do it. And bonfires are really, really nice and comforting and cozy and fun to get outside when we are now heading into chillier evenings or even mornings if you want to do this in the morning. Another idea is to do a road trip or a scenic drive, and I also wrote that fall foliage is a big, big plus. There is nothing more beautiful than fall foliage, and I have been experiencing fall foliage my entire life. I've lived on the northeast coast of the US my entire life. It never gets old. It never ever gets old. So if you have the opportunity to take a day trip or take a road trip or take like an actual trip using a plane, whatever it may be, to somewhere that has fall foliage, I highly recommend it. You will never ever regret that because that experience is unlike any other. Photos don't even do it justice, and I know photos are gorgeous to begin with. But if you have a little bit more access to fall foliage, like myself, I'm very lucky to be still living on the Northeast, do a hike or nature walk so you can literally immerse yourself into the fall foliage while also enjoying that really nice crisp fall air. Crisp fall air is like one of my favorite things. It might be in my top 5 things that I love about the fall. Another idea is to do a corn maze. I think corn mazes can also be on the spooky side if you do like a nighttime corn maze, which I have done in the past and they're so fun. But if you don't like the spooky things, you can do a daytime corn maze. And I feel like corn mazes are very festive, of course, but they're flexible. So they don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be frustrating or super challenging. They can be really easy. They can be done in a group setting or a solo setting. It's always fun. And I don't know, it just embraces the inner child a little bit, which I love so much. And I kind of miss doing corn mazes. I used to go to a farm in Queens when I used to live in New York. I'm from New York, if you didn't know that. And they did a corn maze every single year, like a different one. And I did the daytime one, I did the nighttime one. They're always so fun. And then the last idea that I have for participating in a seasonal activity is spooky season. Spooky season can be dissected into so many different points, so many different ideas, but I just wanted to throw in spooky season for those who like spooky season. So just think like Halloween parties, decorating for Halloween, pumpkin carving, watching horror movies, any of those things. All of that falls under spooky season, so don't forget about that. The third tip is to embrace spices and flavors or scents. So I know back in July even, we were talking about pumpkin spice, and you don't have to jump on the pumpkin spice train if you are not a fan of pumpkin spice, but I think it's a testament to just how impactful and powerful flavors and scents can be when we're trying to embrace a season. I associate scents with so many different things, not just seasons, but with like so many different moments in my life and memories in my life. And so I think it's really powerful to embrace something that might seem not important. It actually can be super important and super joyful to immerse yourself in those scents and flavors. So I have a list of flavors that are not pumpkin spice. If you are not a fan of pumpkin spice, I have cinnamon, apple, maple is probably my favorite, brown sugar, caramel, brown butter if you're on the more savory side, and marshmallow. Of course, we were talking about s'mores just now. And how you can do this, you of course can implement it into your coffees, into your snacks, your baking treats, pancakes, waffles, muffins, even in your pasta. You can throw some brown butter into your pasta. But if you don't want to go the route of food and something that you eat, you can light candles. You can get skincare that are scented in these ways. And I promise you, like I said before, a little bit goes a long way. I'm sure come next fall, you will miss and feel that nostalgic feeling once you smell or consume those scents and flavors again. It's a nice warm and fuzzy feeling. Okay, the next tip is to have fun with the season's festivities. I kind of hinted at this when I was talking about the season's activities in the second point, but I feel like November and December's holidays really overshadow the festivities of September and October. It kind of sucks because I personally think that September and October have a ton of festivities that we probably overlook and don't realize are festivities. I know, of course, we talk about Halloween all the time, and I love Halloween. Halloween's my favorite holiday, but things like apple picking, I feel like we don't get up on any given day and just go to a farm and go apple picking like it's just any other Saturday. You know, like we tend to get our apples from the grocery store, generally speaking, right? But when we make the effort to go to a farm and go apple picking, hang out with some friends, maybe come home and make an apple pie out of it, I feel like that's a festivity in itself. It's a thing. It's like a whole event. It's a whole plan that you've planned out and created for a day out of your weekend, and I think that's extremely festive. I think that's a major celebration of the season because you're doing these things because it's very seasonal. So things like that is something that I consider to be festivities in the more non-traditional sense, but I still think it counts. And of course there are other things such as Oktoberfest, and a lot of local stores will do fall festivals or fall markets and stuff like that. So there's just a lot more to explore than you would think. So check out your local areas if you have any of those types of things going on. Okay, and then the last idea I have is to dabble in the dark academia aesthetic. Now, if you don't know what dark academia is, I will put an example on the screen, like a little mood board on the screen so you can kind of get the vibe that I'm talking about. But it's very dark, it's very moody, it's very artsy, prosy, in your feels kind of aesthetic, and I feel like September in particular, September and October, but September in particular really encapsulates the dark academia aesthetic. It might be because people are going back to school and so the academia part is literally front and center there, but I don't know, during this time of the year I feel really compelled to go to art museums. I like to hang out in bookstores. I like to roam the library. I like to hang out in a coffee shop and things like that. And I think those things all align with the dark academia aesthetic. So use any of those examples or anything of the sort to kind of immerse yourself in that aesthetic. Get in your feels, get into that moody vibe, even like dress for the occasion if you want to, because I feel like the fits in that aesthetic are A+ as well, and just have a good time. It's all about having fun, and I think we need to let loose, be willing, and have that fun in order for us to embrace a season that we may be a little bit skeptical about. Of course, I'm not talking about my fall lovers here. I know this is probably all stuff that you already do and you just needed a little bit of inspo. Yeah, give it a chance. But that is actually the end of this video. I hope it was jam-packed with all the fall vibes. I know that I am very inspired now to jump into a bunch of these different ideas. I'm probably gonna pull up my Notion and start rearranging and updating the board so that I can, you know, get started, because we are officially in fall. I could not be happier, y'all. Let me know if fall is your favorite season, or just let me know what your favorite season is in general. I would love to know. I would love to know if people align with the colder seasons, because if you did not know, my favorite seasons are fall and winter. I'm starting to actually love spring these days because it is also on the cooler side. So that just leaves summer at the end for me. But let me know if you agree with my ranking there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you all have the best of fall, and I will be doing a lot more cozy fall videos on the channel. I have to. My inner soul needs me to. So stay tuned. Thank you once again, and I will talk to you in next week's video.